This may have been FNAF's biggest week ever. All within the last few days, we got the FNAF movie's first trailer, the trailer for FNAF Security Breach's DLC Ruin, and an announcement for FNAF Help Wanted 2. So in this news video, we're going to cover all of those things, doing a full breakdown and talking about any secrets or things you may have missed in all of this news. The trailer begins with recorded footage of a woman talking, presumably an employee of Freddy's, saying in a childish voice, "Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where fantasy and fun come to life," the signature catchphrase of Fazbear Entertainment used throughout the games. This is intercut with shots of kids playing with various arcade cabinets and other games, the whole thing looking straight out of the 1980s. Then we finally get to see the animatronics. The first shot shows Freddy himself singing on stage next to Chica. After that, we get a shot of the three on stage like in the first game, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy center stage. And I believe looking at these animatronics here, that these are the puppets as opposed to the CGI versions. And honestly, they don't look half bad. They're very faithful to the FNAF 1 models, but of course in a much more realistic and detailed way, and I think genuinely capture the vibe of old animatronics in pizzerias. Then in the next shot we are snapped out of the VHS tape and get to see the actual movie, starting with an exterior shot of the Freddy's location, with a toppled sign outside the place reading closed. And if you look in the background overall, the building looks very run down and decrepit. Then we finally get to see Michael Afton walking into the FNAF location with a flashlight. In this room, we can see a sign that says Pizzeria, chairs with portraits of Bonnie and Chica on them, and a food bar and entrance to the kitchen in the back of the room. So we can assume that this is likely the main dining area of the restaurant. Then we get to see Bonnie again, with Michael pulling back the curtain on the show stage, and in the next shot Michael shining his flashlight on Freddy. And these do appear to be the CGI versions of the animatronics, which I will say do look kinda cheap, but hopefully that will change or improve between now and the movie's release, as I know things often do. We can also hear the same woman's voice from earlier at the beginning of the trailer saying, "If you are watching this video, it means you've been selected as Freddy's newest security guard," meaning that the video that we were shown at the beginning of the trailer is most likely a security guard training tape of some kind. Then we are shown a shot of Chica's cupcake, with Chica's beak and head in the corner of the frame. And I do think the cupcake looks really great here. You can really see the detail on it, and even the glass flame and candle look amazing. Next we get a shot of Mike turning on the power in the restaurant and lighting the place up, which causes the sign of Freddy outside of the establishment to illuminate. Next scene is the security cameras. You can see a bunch of classic locations from FNAF 1 here on these monitors, like Pirate's Cove, the party rooms, janitor's closet, and hallways, as well as some new locations like the parking lot outside the restaurant, and as well as what looks like underground tunnels. Man, I swear to God, if they tie this movie in with the book lore, it is so over. And of course, possibly the most important part of this entire trailer, if you look in the background, you can see the infamous Celebrate poster from FNAF 1. Then we get a close-up on the monitors, showing the show stage with Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy looking super creepy. And again, I know a lot of people think the animatronics in the trailer look super cheap and poorly produced, and in certain parts of the trailer, I'd have to agree. But come on, here, you can't deny that these guys look awesome, as well as the fact that this is a very faithful recreation of the show stage from FNAF 1, and I personally think it looks great. Next we get a shot of Mike standing in the dining area saying hello, with Freddy standing behind him. And I will say that this is definitely one of the shots where the CGI Freddy doesn't look quite as good. The lighting on him is pretty flat and doesn't work very well with the environment, as well as the shading on the model, which is kind of ugly. Now here's where things get really weird. After some more video footage with the woman from earlier saying, "We are going to have so much fun together," which is pretty corny, but okay, we see a scene of Mike strapped down to a chair, with a shot of his face, and then some sort of bizarre saw trap-esque metal Freddy mask full of rotating saws descending down upon him. This is certainly a very new thing for the FNAF franchise, and certainly steps outside of the familiar territory of FNAF 1 that this movie's been following so far. I mean, as far as we've known, the animatronics have never had frickin' saws inside their heads, especially coupled with Mike being strapped down to the chair while this happens. The only possibility I can really think of here is that this is some sort of trap William Afton created to try and torture Mike, or really whoever gets in his way. But I'm not 100% sure. This is certainly a weird one. On top of that, the image of the saw trap thing from a different angle actually leaked and confirmed that it is in fact just like a purely saw trap looking Freddy mask, instead of like some sort of appendage inside Freddy's actual suit. So finally we get some rapid fire shots. First we get to see Foxy's shadow cast against a wall bathed gift in blue lighting. Then after that, a shot of a little girl standing in the pizzeria looking up at something. In the next shot, we get to see what she was looking up at. Freddy, hiding behind the curtains in the show stage, looking very, very creepy, with glowing red eyes and a blank, uncanny valley-esque facial expression. Next, we get a quick shot of the woman who, from looking at the cast of the movie, appears to be Vanessa. As to what her actual character in the movie will be like, I have no idea. Now this is followed up by one of the most interesting shots of this trailer. Michael Afton's surrounded by the 5 kids who are most likely the ghosts who end up possessing each one of the robots. And we can actually figure out which kid responds to each character just from these 2 shots alone. One of the boys in the scene is wearing bunny ears, meaning that he will end up possessing Bonnie. The kid in the brown shirt is probably Freddy. The blonde girl in yellow is Susie, the kid possessing Chica, meaning that the kid in orange is probably Foxy, and the kid in the top hat with the yellow striped shirt has to be Golden Freddy. And speaking of William Afton, here we finally get to see him. Sitting at a desk, seemingly in some sort of administrative office, probably for Fazbear Entertainment, folding his hands menacingly. And based on what we've seen so far from the timeline of this movie, it seems like the first FNAF film will cover William Afton's transformation into a serial killer, all the way up through Mike's time as a security guard, and possibly ending with William Afton's death and transformation into Springtrap, if the leaks from a few months ago are to be believed. Next few shots are weird. The first one is of Michael lying on the ground in some sort of wasteland-like field. I'm not too sure as to the context of the scene, but based on how out of place it does feel, I'm betting this will be some sort of dream sequence involving Michael. Then we get a shot, presumably from the perspective of an animatronic, chasing down a security guard who doesn't actually seem to be Michael. Perhaps this shot is from the beginning of the film, showing the demise of the old security guard, and explaining why Michael taking the position was necessary in the first place. Then we get to see Foxy's endoskeleton foot, which walks over to a ball pit, and after that we see the same little girl from earlier, who we can tell is Abby, likely the Elizabeth Afton stand-in for this movie, duck her head into the ball pit to hide from Foxy. After that, there's a shot of Abby's eye from underneath the ball pit, and one of Foxy looking back at her. Then we get the full reveals of the CGI animatronics in attack mode, complete with glowing red eyes. And I do fully understand the criticism that the animatronics kind of appear cheesy and overall funny looking in these scenes, with the over-the-top CGI and red eyes, but honestly, I'm kind of down for it. I mean, Freddy and Bonnie kind of remind me of Chucky from the original Child's Play movies here, and I think having a slightly campy, self-aware vibe for these movies, as serious as some parts of them appear to be, definitely fits the history of FNAF well. And I think the overall designs of these animatronics do look decent. I mean, you can make out the fuzz on the suits and every seam in the fabric here. And I think despite the somewhat goofy appearance, these guys have the potential to be super scary. Now, aside from the trailer, we also got the posters for the movie revealed. And these posters look great, showcasing all the animatronics lined up and cast in an eerie purple glow, the signature color of the FNAF franchise. And I think one interesting thing to note here in the poster is again the level of detail on these animatronics. Here as well you can make out all the fur on the suits, and the accessories of the animatronics look way more realistic, like the folds in Freddy's tie, or Bonnie's guitar now having straps, or the plastic texture of Chica's cupcake, or the detail on the tufts of fur on the side of Foxy's face. On the bottom of the poster, we also have an official logo for the movie reading, "Can you survive Five Nights at Freddy's? October 27. On top of that, we also got 4 other posters to go with the main one, each one displaying a different animatronic, showing off the faces of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy up close, each one having a realistic design instead of glowing red eyes. Now this movie seems to be taking place over quite a large amount of the FNAF timeline, probably starting with the original missing children's incident and beginning the stories of Abby or Elizabeth and Michael Afton, and following William from his restaurateur days to the beginning of his life as Springtrap, which is a good chunk of the FNAF lore. I just hope it's done right. Video game movies are either hit or miss these days, really good or really bad, and I really hope that this movie ends up being a masterpiece, because this really seems to be the capstone to the FNAF franchise that we've been waiting 8 whole years for, and so many people in this community, including myself, are genuinely super excited for it. I just hope that Blumhouse doesn't let us down and delivers a great film come October 27th. Now on to Security Breach Ruin. This trailer starts with a wide shot of what looks like the outer wall of the Pizzaplex made of particle board, which looks to be quite damaged. And we know that behind this wall is outside of the Pizzaplex, as through the holes in the wall we can see a parking garage, trees, and telephone wires. On top of the broken down wall, we can also see a child climbing into the Pizzaplex, who at a first glance doesn't really look like the girl from the first Security Breach Ruin teaser. The main reason for this being her hair color. The girl in the first teaser clearly has blonde hair, while the girl here has dark brown hair. So of course at first that would lead you to believe that these are two different kids. However, looking at the kid here, she appears to be wearing the same red sweater, hairstyle, skirt, black tights, and pink shoes as our girl from the first poster. So then that would lead you to ask the question, why was the hair color changed or purposefully hidden? I think I can provide a few answers. When this teaser first came out, a lot of people were connecting this girl with Vanessa. So what if this was done in part to stop people from making that association, and instead with another character? Cassidy, the vengeful spirit inside Golden Freddy. I mean, for starters from this trailer, we do know this girl's name is Cassie, from the beginning of the trailer where we can hear Gregory say, "Cassie, I hope you get this message." And on top of that, in the original poster, the girl Cassie is standing right next to a giant statue of Golden Freddy. And furthermore, we know a lot of characters in Security Breach, as much as it does make the lore even more of a mess, do parallel characters from other FNAF games. So perhaps this girl is some sort of stand-in for Cassie, or rebuilt version of Cassie, or this is all a coincidence and Scott is just deviously trolling us. Who knows? Moving on. Next shot shows one of the back areas of the Pizzaplex near Roxy Raceway, which looks all decrepit with graffiti everywhere, clearly showing that many other people have been here to scavenge the place since the fire. Which means that judging by Gregory's next line saying, "I'm trapped in the Pizzaplex, or what's left of it," we can assume that Gregory has been here for quite a long time now. So as to how he stayed stuck there after Security Breach, or even survived that long in the first place, we will just have to wait and see. Next we can see the kitchen area of the restaurant, again completely destroyed with equipment thrown around everywhere and the lights shut off. You can also see a new animatronic of some sort in the background, rocking back and forth, sort of looking like one of the staff bots. As for what this thing actually is though, it's way too far away to tell. Some more shots of the broken down Pizzaplex play, including the daycare center, this area with a giant cupcake which looks freaking awesome, some of the graffiti covered rooms in the lower levels of the Pizzaplex, and Monty's Gator Golf. As Gregory talks, asking Cassie for her help, he says that he doesn't know how he got here, which based on what little we know about Gregory's lore from the books, does seem to be somewhat of a lie, as we know he was very involved in the Pizzaplex, and may have actually even participated in hacking the animatronics and whatnot. But then again, it is also hinted at that he was controlled by Afton when he did these things, so perhaps memory loss is a factor here. But of course, we won't get into all that now. We have the rest of this trailer to go over. Now here's where things get interesting. We get a look at some of the animatronics, even more shattered and destroyed than they appear at the end of Security Breach. The first one we get a good look at is Roxanne, with her face completely gone, and her torso ripped apart, actually looking pretty menacing, as compared to the absolute furry bait she appeared at in Security Breach. The next shot, we get a closer look at our character. Well, more specifically, her arms. She appears to be wearing bracelets and green nail polish and using a remote control. This remote control has the logo of Glamrock Freddy on it, and could possibly be a way to control him, and either call him to the player's location, or communicate with him at certain points in the game. Then we get to see those godforsaken, site-activated endoskeletons again, and I have no other reaction to that than pure rage. Those things were the worst part of the entire game. I don't even know why they brought them back. And this endo is outside of an area called Superstar's Gift Shop, so it does seem like the endos have invaded the rest of the Pizzaplex, or at least other parts of it besides the lower levels since the place has fallen into ruin. Next we can see Chica standing outside of some sort of Glamrock attraction. We can't quite make out the name of it because of the tree blocking it, but the color scheming and overall decorations are similar to the ones found in Roxy Raceway, so we can assume that this may also be in that same general area of the map. Then we can see Cassie interacting with a computer while holding the Freddy remote, and this computer allows her to access cameras and view the animatronics, similar to mechanics in Security Breach and all of the other FNAF games really, except this one seems like something more specific to a location, not something that you can just do whenever, like with Gregory. Then we get a quick shot of her plugging something into another thing, probably to solve some sort of puzzle, followed by her picking up a Roxanne walkie-talkie and telling Gregory to run on it. So it seems like Cassie and Gregory will be in some sort of communication through Ruin, as evidenced by this, and the first poster too, with Gregory shown on all the monitors in the teaser. So maybe Gregory could possibly act as your tutorial guide throughout this game, sort of like Freddy did in Security Breach. as well as giving you little hints on how to solve puzzles and stuff when you need them. Then after a shot of some more destroyed staff bots in a caved-in underground tunnel, we get the reveal of what Monty will look like in Ruin. And out of the 3 animatronics hostile towards you in Security Breach, Monty is by far the most destroyed, essentially just reduced down to an endoskeleton torso with a few chunks of his mohawk still intact. And after a shot of Cassie riding one of the attractions in the severely destroyed Monty's Gator Gulf, we get to see Chica again, this time in some dark open area of the Pizzaplex, which seems to be some sort of candy shop judging by the art of the lollipops. Then we get a look at some jump scares. First one we get to see is Monty's, getting us a closer look at his endoskeleton, which is battered and bent, Monty even missing a few teeth, yet somehow his eyes are still completely untouched. Next up is Roxanne, missing the casings around her ears, and now as well as her eyes, her entire jaw and the sides of her face. Then finally we get to see the daycare attendant, looking like a mix of both sun and moon, and split down the middle between each, with one yellow eye and one red eye, as well as one side of his face being completely destroyed. Now these last 2 shots are perhaps the most interesting out of the entire trailer. First we get to see Cassie actually put on Vanessa's mask, followed by her getting a view into this weird other world, with everything taking on a magenta tint, and these huge purple pixelated blobs in the sky are suddenly visible. These blobs could perhaps be the glitch trap virus itself, that we have to go in and destroy to clear Afton's influence from the Pizzaplex once and for all, as we know that the virus has spread to inhabit and control all of them all. I'd assume we'd have to do this before actually going in and tracking down Afton, who may have very well merged with the blob at this point to form the Afton amalgamation from the books, as many people have predicted. Okay, now final shot of the trailer. We get to see some sort of blue rabbit creature in this glitch trap virus realm. And I think this is actually what remains of Glamrock Bonnie, because if you look at this creature here, it is clearly a blue animatronic with bunny ears, and it was heavily implied that parts of Glamrock Bonnie were used to build Burntrap. So it would make sense for why Glamrock Bonnie would exist in some form in this weird glitch trap virus realm. Now, I won't lie, I am nowhere near as hyped for Ruin as I am for the movie. The FNAF movie seems like it will answer many of our long-standing questions about the series, and be something new, versus FNAF Security Breach, which just honestly doesn't interest me all that much. It overall wasn't that scary or that polished of a game, and the DLC for it doesn't even seem to offer that much new besides lore, which is the main reason I think any of us are still even keeping our eyes on Security Breach at all. And finally, we have the new trailer for FNAF Help Wanted 2. On May 24th, the Steelwool Studios channel posted this video announcing the second Help Wanted VR FNAF game, seeming to port the other FNAF content not included in the first FNAF Help Wanted, like FNAF's sister location FNAF 6 and possibly even Security Breach, into the second game. This trailer, unlike the other ones we've covered today, is actually pretty simple. A lot more of a teaser, meaning that this game is probably in the earlier stages of development. The trailer starts with the shot of the elevator from Sister Location, and the elevator here looks to be a completely redesigned and remastered version of the one that appeared in Sister Location. The elevator itself looks way more detailed, with a much more consistent and appealing color palette, as well as changing the appearances of the posters inside the elevator. Originally in Sister Location, the poster on the left showed an image of Ballora with the caption of Dance, and the poster on the right displayed Baby and Biddy Bab with the classic caption of Celebrate. In Help Wanted 2, the right poster instead shows Funtime Freddy's Bonnie puppets, Bonnet and Bon Bon. By contrast, the left poster this time is the one showing off Baby, with the caption of Stay Cool and Baby holding an ice cream. Now unfortunately, as stated by the caption on the bottom of the screen, this isn't actual gameplay footage, which to be fair isn't too much of a surprise, because currently, even by the high standards that the first FNAF VR game set, these graphics look way too polished and realistic for a VR game, which is pretty disappointing, but I'm sure Steelwool will still do a great job with how this game looks. As the elevator descends, we get some new voice lines from Hand Unit, and a much more dynamic and interesting animation of the elevator descending underground, speeding up faster and faster over time, to really show that the Sister Location is not just a basement level to the FNAF 4 house, but actually deep underground. William Afton must have really blown some fat stacks on getting a mile-long elevator shaft built under his home, good lord. And finally at the very end of the trailer, we can see what maybe could be some actual gameplay. We get a jump scare of Ballora with her face fully split open, and her glowing blue eyes facing towards the camera. These graphics certainly don't look quite as good as the cinematic we saw at the beginning of the trailer, but I think it's still definitely an improvement over Help Wanted 1, and the thought of playing all of Sister Location in VR genuinely terrifies me. Say what you want about the gameplay, but the actual horror of that game I think is definitely some of the best the series has to offer. So what can we actually expect from this game? Earlier I mentioned that this game will likely cover Sister Location, FNAF 6, and Security Breach. We already know that Sister Location will be covered in this game from the trailer, and Help Wanted only had the Sister Location characters in it, with Baby, Funtime Freddy, and Ennard popping up in other locations from the FNAF games. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, FNAF 6 wasn't in Help Wanted in any way at all, unless you count those tiny little Scrap Baby stuffed dolls in a few of the minigames. And FNAF 6 has the most content out of any Five Nights at Freddy's game, excluding Security Breach. Because of this, FNAF 6 in my opinion is a no-brainer to add to Help Wanted 2, and would make for some spectacular Help Wanted minigames. And the same honestly goes for Sister Location. As for FNAF Security Breach, I'm not too sure if that one will make an appearance, seeing as it only came out a year ago, and much of the gameplay is already free roam minigame puzzle-based stuff, as well as the game also being made by Steel Wool Studios. However, I think a lot of people would really love to see the Security Breach characters in Help Wanted, and I certainly do hope that they include at least some Security Breach content in Help Wanted 2. Overall, this will certainly be FNAF's biggest year ever. Between the long-awaited movie, possibly the most hyped thing in the FNAF franchise to date, the DLC, and Help Wanted 2 all getting announced in the same week, with the DLC releasing in July, the FNAF movie in October, and Help Wanted 2 in November or December, this will be without a doubt FNAF's biggest year ever, and may even push it past the resurgence it experienced when Security Breach released in late 2021. So I think that's going to have to do it for this very long and very overdue video. And hey, if you liked it, then why not subscribe, like, comment to boost all the engagement and watch time and other stuff I just pretend not to care about. And also, why don't you go ahead and follow me on Twitter, because the follower to sub ratio, it's not exactly lining up on there. So go down, links in the description, follow me on Twitter, please. And that is pretty much all for this video. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.